Hello and welcome to the Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Today we are going to wrap up the first section of state purposes. So today what we're going to talk about is the evolution of how did we get here today? Meaning, like over the last 5 years, as I've been teaching people and as I've been working with Tom's book, like he gave this book to me. He put it, well, I guess he put it, I don't know, I guess he handed it to me. And I've been reading it, and I've taped it up quite a few times over the years. I've read it and read it and read it, and finally, now I have a digital copy, as you can see. So what we're going to talk about today is like my evolution, how I understood the concepts of his book over the years, how I've been teaching it over the years. Particularly, we want to get to this concept called 4D management coaching. And then we want to jump back into that first section of state purposes, where we talk about shaping potential. And then we want to connect that somehow. I don't know if it's possible yet, but we're going to try to connect those shaping potential motivations and purposes to the 4D management coaching model. All right, so let's go. I started really focusing on this process of manager coaching with the 1.0 model. So it's to-do list 1.0. And this was mainly because I was teaching I was teaching a man from Brazil. At the time, he was working I think he just finished working for Accenture, and then he started working for a different consulting company. And he wanted to improve his ability to communicate with others, and he wanted to have some structure to his thinking. He wanted to improve his career. And after 1 year of talking to him once a week, he got a job at Capgemini. And then another year after that, he became a senior manager at Capgemini. So there you go. And maybe he might be watching this video right now. So thank you to this young man. Thank you to this man and he actually was the guy who said, hey, listen, you can't. So what I would do is actually I would talk to people, and then they would tell me like what's going on or what are they thinking about. And I would actually I would create the thinking tools, the thinking models from Tom's book, and I would just shape it as I was talking to them. See, one of the problems that I have is that when I'm by myself, sometimes it can be a challenge for me to really create stuff. And it's really when I'm talking to other people that somehow I tap into their, hold on. I think that'll be better. Somehow I tap into their energy or tap into their creative energy, or somehow I channel. I don't know. I just feel like when I'm talking to another person, then that's when I'm really connected, and they're sharing their insights and I'm sharing my insights. And then, we form something that seems like it almost comes out of nowhere, but of course with the aid of the work that Tom has already done and put into his book. So what that did was, for example, if we look at things for example, what have we actually looked at before? What happened was I noticed that most of Tom's work, it seemed to fall into 3 different areas: managing people, working with partners, developing projects. What's the difference between managing people and working with partners? So managing people, for example, work styles. Now, we've talked about this previously. It's a checklist in Tom's book called State Styles. The general concept is that people, you want to move from if you have no process, then you have a haphazard process, and then you have a tentative process, and then you have some process, and then you have to optimize that process, then you have to automate that process. So this is from Tom's book, and he's not going to be happy because I need to have a copyright symbol on the page. Anyways, you can see that, I don't have any copyright symbols in here, so we're just not going to go further with this right now. Anyways, the idea you can see when you're managing somebody, you want to make sure that if you're delegating, particularly if you're delegating things, you want to make sure that they're developing processes. If you want to make a huge amount of wealth, you have to own processes. And as you are able to automate those processes which you own, then that's like the money printing machine. An automated process which you own, that is a money printing machine. So that's an example of one way that you're managing people. You're helping them to develop processes. Here's another thing that we've talked about. We've talked about performance and drive, also from Tom's book. I used to put 40 management coaching for copyright. All right, so you can see we've talked about this in the past. You have an employee, maybe they have like a high level of effort, maybe they have a low level of effort, maybe they have a high level of success, maybe they have a low level of success. In general, if you find that it's difficult for you to find success in this life, I would recommend both putting in more time and energy and also putting in more education. So generally you kind of move up first and then slowly move to the right. And then automation means you can then start to come down over here again. All right, so what are we talking about? You see, so these are mainly about managing people. And then today, well, I guess this whole series, we've been talking about identifying purposes. Now this link doesn't work because I've changed that document a few times. All right, that's different from working with partners because now we have to design the team. We have to understand the decisions we're making. Sometimes we have to come up with new innovative ideas. And then we've got developing projects, planning the progression of the project, understanding how we can work together to get better outcomes, and knowing what kind of resources we need in order to get there. So that's the to-do list 1.0. From there, I'm just going to delete that and delete that. Okay, so now you can see I moved from that to to-do list 2.0. So this is a methodology for managing people, projects, and partners. So this is actually the same thing. But what I noticed was the majority of people that I was talking to, I kind of put them through the same process. It was like everyone's going through the same basic pattern. Now, whether that was mainly me forcing some kind of process on other people, or whether those were really the things that people really needed, I don't know. I would say in general, like thinking back, it was probably just me pushing them through, because why would we start with state synergies? I never start with state synergies anymore. And it's really difficult for people to start with state synergies in general. And then we go into state teamwork. Yeah, so this is like structure, like how is your organization structured? What departments do you have? Who is working together? So, and most people, they don't really, as I started teaching this way, I noticed that most of the people I was working with were not at this level. Most of the people I was working with already had an organization with structure. They were inside of that. And although this process enabled them to discuss the structure of their organization, but it was already things that they knew. So it wasn't necessarily a really useful experience for them. Eventually we moved to the 3.0. So at this point, it was called 4D business coaching, how to learn to use the best brainstorming tools and set goals and achieve great results. By learning the 4 business coaching dimensions, you will learn to be able to what? Articulate and work toward practical goals, request and organize results-oriented information, produce results and achieve goals. What does that mean? So goals, it's like, it's the objective based on whatever the vision is. Then you set the goals, meaning what is the target? Where are we headed? What are we doing? Next, results and request and organize results-oriented information. So this is a management process, meaning once you help your subordinates to set their objectives and create very clear goals, then you need to be able to request and organize results-oriented information. They need to report. They need to give you a report. What are they doing and what are the results of their actions? And finally, produce results, achieve goals. And Well, at this point, what I noticed was people, they were having problems understanding this concept of endeavors. And here we got Henry Ford that said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Nice. So me, and then there was an engineer from Italy and a computer scientist from Russia. And over a period of about a month or 6 weeks, this list of 11 questions was created, developed, refined. And this is about, like, what do you really want to work on? What is it that you want in life? But then again, so it depends, because some people, they want a new endeavor. They want to try something new. They want to make a change in their life. But then other people, they already have something they're working on. They already know what they want. They're already on the path. So I just noticed that people always, they're different. And it's just like, how do you actually have a pattern that everybody can work through? And then that's when I developed this thing called the 4D business coach, the 4 business coaching dimensions. This also was thanks to a lot of help from a gentleman from Italy, the engineer. So, okay, so we got the results dimension, the decision dimension, the catalyzing dimension, strategic dimension. Now, as you can see, we're going from left to right. So execution, it comes first. These are individuals. So if you're a manager, these are actually the people who you manage. These are the people who are going to be delivering deliverables. These are the actual, like, what is being done? How is it being done? And if you're the manager, then it's up to you to structure the deliverables. That's the decision dimension. And not only do you structure the deliverables, but you're also in the catalyzing dimension, meaning that you have to decide who is going to be in the contract, what kind of innovation are we looking on at. So we're talking about planning and capabilities. So who's in the room? What are we up against? So what kind of people are going to be on our team? And then what are we trying to overcome? And then we need to look at the data, analyze the past, and then start to make some decisions about the future. And finally, on the right-hand side, we got the big picture, strategic dimension. So these are C-level managers. They're working with vision. They want to know, what is the overall business model and market fit? What is the overall cycle? And as you can see, the brainstorming tools from Tom's book, Create Crucial Insight, in my mind, they were kind of lining up with these specific dimensions. And then I created some one-pagers, which were like some homework that I could give to people. They would take it home. They could do some reading. They could do some exercises on their own. And I don't even remember what's after this. I guess we went into the business model canvas. All right, now from here, actually, I'm going to just close this tab. So now we have 4.0. Now I changed the name to 4D Management Coaching. It's kind of similar. But then I started asking people, like, what kind of manager are you? How have you experienced management in the past? How have you helped people you manage to improve their performance? And then, as you can see, I changed the order. I put the strategic dimension on the left. So I would begin to ask the manager, because I usually work with new managers, mid-level managers, sometimes executives. So I would ask them, okay, so what is the big picture in your organization? And particularly if you're an entrepreneur, what is your vision? What are you trying to achieve? And nowadays, it seems like a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to, they're almost always just copying some other person's work. And they just want to they just want to localize it for their domestic market. All right, and then here, so this is where most of the people I work with are managers. And so then we start to talk about how to put together a team, how to come up with innovative ideas, then how to structure the deliverables. And then you need to delegate certain tasks to the people who are actually going to perform the duties. So Now here it says people managing individuals and coordinators. These are floor level managers. So in the middle, we have executive, mid-level managers who are creating the overall plans. And then over here, we have the factory floor managers who need to actually get the projects done with their people. And if we look at, so I got the same quote, but then I added one by Steve Jobs. It's not the customer's job to know what they want. Meaning you have to be innovative. You have to see something that other people don't see. It's that same find out activity again. So, and there should be a big one. All right, so then you can see, now I call it the four management coaching dimensions. I did this for a while, but I just found that it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. It wasn't expressing, it was good. It's a good structure. I like it, but unfortunately it just, what I finally did was I took that, and everyone I talked to, I started with unit 1. What do you want? Is it worth it? Why? So we're talking about vision. We still have those 11 questions. Then there's 21 questions from vision to objectives. I don't know if I've gone through that on this channel or not. Sometimes we would go through a SWOT analysis. I would use one of these tools to get them to start brainstorming, and just because really when you start coaching somebody, the main issue is you need to get them to start talking, and you need to provide some structure so that they find something that they want to talk about. And I found that these 3 tools were really helpful to get people to talk about things. Then we would just add some ideas. We put in some questions, some issues and problems, opportunities, activities. Then, okay, so now basically you get them talking, they have some things that they want to say, and you can start working from there. Next, we would talk about building a file cabinet. So when you want to build something, you start by creating the frame. And yeah, cube thinking, I still teach. So this actually, cube thinking made it into my course. State styles is going to be in course number 2. Consistency didn't make it into the course. So cube thinking, it's interesting because it helps you to break down like somebody's role into very specific functions. Then you break down those functions into specific tasks. Then you take those tasks and turn it into like the actual process to complete the task. And once you have a whole list of functions and objectives and tasks and things that need to be done, you can map it, like basically everything. Because at the end of the day, remember, look, state styles, we're trying to build a process. And finally, okay, next we got number 3, which is dividers and file cards in a drawer. Yeah, so, and the thing is, like, not everybody was able to get to this level. And almost nobody made it to the cabinet floats in the river of markets. Just sounds a little bit funny. And then additional resources. So we got some things about like active listening, inbound marketing, the hook, big 5 personalities, initial consultation, user personas, internet marketing tree, 2 brains combined. So this was kind of like the last thing I did until finally the Endeavor Cycle introduction, iron out those brain wrinkles. Now, I put everybody through this course. Whenever I talk to a new person, then we go through this whole table of contents. We go through the corporate menu, the internal work cycle, force field analysis, the Endeavor Cycle, deliberate practice, cube thinking, OKR methodology, and then setting up targets. So eventually it turned into this. This is the actual curriculum of my online course, which you can purchase at spacebetweenideas.com. You're going to go through all of this. I'm going to explain everything. We're going to go through all of these ideas. Now, a lot of these ideas, as you can see, we've talked about in the previous videos. And so a lot of these ideas will be familiar to you, but the online course, it just systematically takes you through all of these thinking tools one by one and can help you to have a very secure foundation in the game of business. And now, of course, I'm working on the next course. Now, how does that connect with what I said? So I said, look, from the book Create Crucial Insight, we were talking about this area called shape potential in the categories of purposes and motivations. We've already gone through all of these things. And probably today we need to do a little bit of review with the last point. But as I started thinking about how are we going to review this, I noticed that this has some connection to the 4D management coaching. All right, so let's take a look at why I'm thinking that. Why? Because in a business, remember, we have the C-level managers, we have the middle level managers, then we have the factory floor managers. The factory floor managers are the ones who actually perform the duties. The mid-level managers are doing the hiring and planning and putting in the budget and talking about the resources and exactly how we're going to overcome those challenges. And the upper level managers are providing some vision. And each of these different levels are going to be shaping potential a little bit differently. All right, so let's do some examples, and let's start with the top. So in the last video, we talked about ally with or create entities, relationships, or activities. Ally with or create is a very simple concept that means either you have the vision and you create, or somebody else has the vision and you help them to create. All right, so what do you mean entities? Who's going to create an entity? At that level, creating an entity, we're talking about vision. We're talking about C-level executives. We're talking about the entrepreneur, the business owner. We're talking about the person who is in charge of the overall business model and the market fit, because they need to create the entity. Either you are that person who is creating the vision, or you are part of the founder, the team of founders. And so you have somebody who has a really great vision and you're part of that vision, and there's some specific area that you're helping with. And what about relationships? Relationships are key within all of these areas. Who's going to be creating relationships? If we have mid-level managers, look who's in the room. Already you can see relationships. And when we structure deliverables, it means that we're going to need to talk to some analysts, we're going to need to talk to some decision makers, and we need to talk to other people who understand the data. So the planning process, certainly you need to ally with relationships. What about create relationships? Maybe an example of create relationships could be in the sales area. So what's being done? How is it being done? We need help to get some specific task done, meaning we need to create some relationships. Perhaps it's a business relationship with somebody who has the capacity to do that specific work. If you're on a sales team, then you need to create relationships in order to perhaps access potential clients. And finally, activities. So you're going to be creating activities, or you are allying with somebody who is creating activities. Delivering deliverable means creating activities at the factory floor level. And creating activities from a structuring deliverables, meaning creating a plan, is going to be about activities. And as you can see over here, these are not really about activities. So it seems that when we talk about entities, creating or allying with entities, then we're talking about vision and capabilities, meaning like if we have this vision, then who are we going to be working with? And whether it be an entity that we have to register a business, or whether it be what are the entities in this market that we need to ally with? Who are we going to be working with? And then capabilities, meaning certain types of entities have certain types of capabilities. And if we're going to put them onto the team in order to achieve that innovation, then we need to be able to identify the capabilities of those entities. Or if no other business has that capability, then perhaps we have to create an entity in order to create that ability. All right, and then relationships, as we just talked about, are all the way through this. And then finally, activities, it's mostly right heavy when it comes to planning and performing. All right, now deploy, gain, create resources, methods, skills, knowledge. I think a lot of this is also right heavy. If we talk about the vision, if we're talking about the executive, for example, when I have this vision of sharing with you and sharing with the world the work of Tom Buchholz and my experiences working with people, I am deploying knowledge. Is that my vision to deploy knowledge? Yes. So it could be an executive function. You could say that deploying knowledge is a vision. Gain knowledge. So what does it mean when I'm actually learning something? When I actually pick up Tom's book, is that an executive function? Yeah, to some extent, yes. And often when you talk to CEOs, they're going to be talking about the books that they're reading. I have to tell you, like, some of the most interesting people I've talked to are owners of businesses. And then, like, I start mentioning books that I've been reading, and then they're like, yeah, I read that one. Yeah, I read that one. Yeah, I read that one. And it's like, wow, because once you get up to that high level, these executives are spending a huge amount of time just inputting data, making sure that they have a really good model in their mind to be able to, I mean, it's like, it goes back to the pirate story. If you're standing on a pirate ship, if you ever hit an iceberg, then it's all over. And so the pirate spent a lot amount of time just trying to make sure that he understands exactly how to sail and also how to fight off other pirates who perhaps want to attack them. So I think that this level is likely, goes all the way across, gaining resources, creating resources, gaining methods, creating methods. That's all the way along. Every single department or every area of the 4D, the 4 dimensions of management coaching, are going to be having some relationship with these concepts because they're all shaping potential in their own way. Enhanced reputation. Everybody wants to enhance reputation, right? All right, so I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the executive, I want reputation. I'm a mid-level manager and I'm making these great plans. I want the plans to achieve success and I'm going to take some credit. I'm the master craftsman and look at the way I do this job. And you see, so all of those, you can see all of the people who work throughout the enterprise are going to be hoping to enhance their reputation with the work that they're doing in the organization. Attain certification, other recognition. Oi, Gordon's gonna come over here any second. All right, so it's time for me to take Gordon for a walk. Gordon. All right, let's just finish this. Maybe he didn't notice. Attain certification. Yeah, so for example, there was this CEO from Ukraine and they were doing solar installations for residential properties. And one thing that they did was they created some kind of certification program for engineering firms. And particularly these engineering firms who were doing work in other areas and other businesses, perhaps they already had relationships with home builders. And then this solar panel company, they provided this certification process so that these engineers could learn how to fit the projects with solar panels. And through that certification process, they were able to onboard a huge amount of partners and be able to get a huge amount of business through a business-to-business certification operation. Another student, he's from Spain, he was talking to me about some government grants from the EU and how if you developed online courses for businesses, that you could get access to a bunch of subsidies and grants. And so they were preparing a bunch of different courses in order to sell business to business, and they were able to do that through the money from the EU. right? So this is another case where they were able to build a product. And also, this is something specific that the EU is pushing in order to continually train the people who are in organizations. And then, like, this is the most obvious one. Every kind of, I mean, what are those things called? Like, you can go to university, a trade. So any kind of trades college is going to have some kind of certification program, which is going to help you to get the certificate and then eventually to get the job. Finally, maintain or enhance wellness. I think that this one was mainly, I was talking about like your compensation and your contribution. So this could be anywhere in the organization, because it doesn't matter if you're the executive or if you're working on the factory floor. Every single position is going to be asking you to contribute something, and you're always going to be asking for some kind of compensation. But on the other side of this idea is that if you are a CEO, C-level manager, you are helping to create a vision for how this business is going to enhance the wellness of society through your value proposition. And also, your business as a whole needs to also provide for the enhancement or maintenance of the wellness of the business itself and the people who work inside of that business. All right, so that is everything I got for you today. We basically went through the overall process of how I've evolved my teaching concepts with the use of Tom's book and some other resources over the years. Then I helped you to see how the concepts from shaping potential, particularly these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ideas, relate to different areas of management within a corporation. And finally, we're just going to wrap that up. So we're wrapping up Shape Potential today. And in the next video, we will be discussing, we're going to move up to forming agendas and continue moving up these categories of purposes or motivations. Thank you for tuning into Space Between Ideas, and I will see you next time. Oh, wait, no. So I'm going to put up another video tomorrow. It's going to be the post-live video using that Notebook LM by Google, which is crazy because, you know, when you listen to those Notebook LM podcasts, it like, wow, okay. So, cause it's almost like a critic of your work, cause they talk about your, you know, the content. So what I do is I just take the subtitles. So the subtitles are automatically created by YouTube. So I just but it usually takes like 10 hours. So after 10, 12 hours, after they finish making the subtitles, I copy the subtitles and then I put it into ChatGPT and I ask them to format the text. And then I take the text, I put it into the Notebook LM by Google, and then I ask it to generate the podcast, which usually takes around, I mean, for today, a 35-minute video, it's probably going to take them like 30 minutes to make that. And then it just basically tells me all the things that nobody is telling me in the comments. It's like, this guy is crazy and he's just jumping here and there and everywhere and we just have no idea what he's talking about, and they disagree with the things I say. It's amazing. So that's fun. Anyway, so tune in tomorrow. I'll upload that post live podcast tomorrow to see what Google has to say about this video. If you have something that you'd like to say about this video, go ahead and comment below.